All right, welcome back to What Are We Even Doing? The podcast you listen to when you've run out of other options, where we talk about higher education, artificial intelligence, and whatever else comes to mind while asking the question, what if we just don't? Beer in hand, we're coming to you from Max Bar here in Lansing, Michigan. I'm Devin, Silvia.
Danny Caballero.
Danny, how's it shaking, champ?
How's
it shaking?
It's all right.
What's going on?
World Cup's ending. I'm getting sad.
True.
I'm getting sad.
Championship's right around the corner. Championship, is that what they call it? The final?
Yes, the final. Yeah. Do you?
Football.
See? You know the words.
I know all the words. I did get to see Spain play Belgium in Spain. That was pretty cool.
Wow.
They won, thankfully.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I'm not sure how they would have played out.
Yeah. That's incredible.
Did you get a taste of today's air at all?
I had a meal on the way over here. Yeah.
Made you
delicious.
Want to s'more, didn't it?
Delicious. Yeah. No. It smells like a moldy fireplace.
Yeah, no,
it's
that's
bad.
True. Yeah, you can taste it.
Bad.
You can smell it.
Yeah.
It's great. That's fine.
Yeah.
This is normal, right?
The new normal. Yeah. Apparently, we are super fucked.
And on that note, we're going to go ahead and get down to business. So today, we're going to be talking about a New York Times magazine piece by Linda Kinstler. This is from June 1 of this year. It's entitled, California's Public Universities Went All In on AI, and Now They're Tearing Themselves Apart. So it's about the California State University system trying to become an, quote, AI-powered public university anchored by a...
Wait, I'm sorry. What is an AI-powered public university?
Oh, we're going to get there.
Oh, baby. Exciting. Okay, sorry.
It's coming.
Sorry. Please go.
But how do you become an AI-powered university?
Okay.
Well, it starts with a $16.9 million deal with OpenAI.
Oof.
Yeah.
$16.9 million. This is for the Cal State
This is for the
system,
Cal State
the whole
University
system.
system.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
We'll talk a little bit about exactly what that deal. What do you get for $17 million? We'll find out.
Yeah.
In just a minute here.
God dang.
But the article sort of opens with this and then proceeds to walk us through what they define as the chaos that follows.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? And so we'll try to get your perspective here on some of that chaos. And before we dive in, can you confirm that you have in fact not yet read this article?
I have not read this article.
Okay, perfect. So we're getting just off the dome.
Yeah. Straight off the dome. Yeah, this is going to be unhinged.
Yeah. All right. Perfect. That's what we're here for. That's what I'm assuming our now second episode worth of listeners.
Yeah. All the 10 people in the Lansing area that are listening to this.
That's right. And
thanks.
someone in
thank you.
someone
Thank
in
you
Germany
all. And a German. Thank you to you.
Perfect. Great. Okay. Let me wet my whistle here and then we'll dive in.
Outstanding.
All right, so Danny, for your benefit, for the benefit of our audience, here's a quick version on kind of what happened here at California State, right? So early 2025, CSU signs a $16.9 million contract with OpenAI for about 500,000 ChatGPT EDU licenses. So this is their marketed towards education opportunity.
500,000 for... You said
for what makes up roughly
million.
22 campuses in the California State University system for $17 million. So this is for the whole Cal State system. With the aim of turning the system into the nation's first and largest AI-powered public university system. And mind you, this is happening while CSU is in the middle of a multi-billion-dollar deficit, layoffs of tenured faculty, department closures, and tuition hikes.
Sweet.
So... That's the stage that we're going to set.
Yeah.
Now, an example of how this sort of AI initiative, university-wide AI initiative across all 22 campuses shows up. At San Jose State, it shows up as the AI Everywhere initiative. And this includes an AI librarian, an AI Center for Civic and Social Good, an AI orientation training, an AI boot camp, and even an AI avatar of the president, sending welcome videos to students and communicating with alumni and parents in languages the president themselves does not speak.
That is... I have questions, but I'll hold them for the moment.
I have questions for you first.
I would very much like to have that technology for myself.
Right.
I want to be everywhere in all languages all the time.
Yes. If we could have an omnipresent Danny.
Correct.
I mean, what else would we
What else? What else is needed?
That would be it.
God,
we could solve everything.
Of all of the things, that one is the best.
Yeah.
By far. That's amazing.
This president describes herself as the CEO of the university, akin to the tech leaders of Silicon Valley trying to mobilize the workforce for the AI economy.
Yikes.
This is self-described. And I will admit, I don't off the top of my head remember the name of this president. But for this particular conversation, let's just assume it's irrelevant.
Okay, fair enough.
During the break, I'll try to look it up and bring it in later. But
Cool.
But this is self-described. I'm the CEO of the university, et cetera, et cetera.
Wow.
So, recap. We've got crumbling budgets, faculty losing jobs, and at the same time, a huge AI investment framed as progress and opportunity. So, as someone who works in public higher ed...
and increased costs to students and their families, right? The raised tuition you mentioned.
Oh, yes. The tuition hikes are happening.
We can't forget that.
That's right. College is becoming more expensive.
Yes.
Faculty are losing their jobs. They're in a deficit.
Yes.
And they signed a $70 million contract. With
And
tech
here's your license to ChatGPT.
Correct.
Killer. Okay.
Yeah. Good. So, as someone who works in public higher education, what's your gut reaction to this situation we've just presented to you?
I mean, $17 million in a year can go a pretty long way. I mean, I think if my math is right, they're not paying a sticker price. It sounds like they're paying about $35 a student for all of their students. But when you are raising tuition on students and their families, I find it hard to think that this is a good use of those funds. It's not obvious to me that having access to these tools is important. I think, but
Sure.
Constructing an entire curricular change around that is a huge endeavor, which is not a $17 million endeavor, right? You get access to the tools for $17 million. Is it a wise investment? I mean, we'll see, I suppose. But the larger effort to then figure out how your curriculum can make use of those tools,
Sure.
right? How you can enable students to use, what is essentially a chatbot of some sort that you maybe can wrangle in some way to be able to do things that you would like it to do, right? Like that is a difficult endeavor to engage in, right? It requires money. It requires professional development for faculty and staff, right? It requires a discussion and a negotiation of how those tools are going to be used, and particular how those tools are going to be used with students as the partners for that discussion, right? Because it is the tools that they are going to be inheriting and using and are displacing them in the workplace, right? I read, I can't remember where exactly now, but I read that the students that are engaged in higher education now are very worried. They're more worried about AI than older people, right? And the root of that, I think, is, well, what is going to be available to us, right, for us in this new environment? And like, I understand the need, or the perceived need to adopt this campus-wide or even system-wide in this case.
Right.
But where's the money coming from to do that development for those students? And also, where's the conversation with students about, like, what is the future of work going to look like, right? Like, what's the point of you coming here and using these AI tools? What are we enabling, right? What futures are we actually enabling?
Right. For $17 million, like, one, what plans do we have to use what we get for $17 million?
That's right.
Also, have we even thought about what we get for $17 million?
Right. And do we have any sort of major initiatives? I mean, let's talk about the shit weather we're experiencing at the moment, right? Do we have initiatives where we can use these tools to solve societal problems? Okay, maybe we do, and I do think that we do. When you look at the ways that people are using foundational models, people are using machine learning, people are using forms of artificial intelligence in science, technology, history, and so forth. Like, we are doing things that we couldn't do before, and we can solve problems that we couldn't have solved before. But, like, where's the initiative to solve those problems, right?
Yeah.
Where's the initiative to balance the misuse of electricity in these rural communities against the devastation of crops in those communities as well as a result of climate change, right? Like those things are connected together. And so like how are our universities going to respond to those kinds of things?
Right, and we'll talk about this sort of as we march through here. But the article does highlight that some of the things you're talking about is like what they argued this investment was for, right?
Sure,
it was responding
of course.
to the needs of where we were headed, et cetera,
Yeah.
right? But as you've already started to point out, and we'll unpack more of this, is like you can't just say that that's true.
Yeah, no, it's not. It's not. That's
Right,
not
like, this is like if we pay $70 million, like all of those things that we need to be responding to in the modern era will get responded to, right? It doesn't work like that.
It's not an a priori result, right? Like you can't assume that's going to be the endpoint, right? I mean, as you know really well, right? Building new classes, building new curriculum, building new courses, building community among majors, like that's a hard fucking job, and it takes effort and money and people that are dedicated to doing it, and
and there's nothing in this contract with OpenAI that says like, here's how we're going to help you achieve those goals, right?
100%.
The contract is like you get 500,000 licenses.
Here are your credits.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
So moving forward, right? We're going to drift into something that I think you've got a lot of insight around and have done some thinking around. So as the article continues on, it kind of starts digging into the labor side of this, and this is where I think the story really sort of sharpens and kind of highlights a tension, right? And as I've alluded to, I think you do a lot of work in thinking in this area. So the AI rollout hits, as I've kind of already talked about, as campuses are declaring fiscal emergencies, they're firing faculty, they're discussing shuttering departments, et cetera. And at San Francisco State, which is in the Cal State system, for example, enrollment is dropping, budgets are being cut, and these AI tools are announced as part of this big, $17 million contract, touted as the thing that will quote unquote future-proof education, right? And so faculty there at San Francisco State describe AI using the parlance of Silicon Valley as a force multiplier.
Interesting.
Okay? Entering an ecosystem already weakened by this sort of forced austerity, right? So like there's been this pattern of like, well, just do more with less.
Right.
We've experienced this at
Absolutely,
MSU, right? And so you start getting faculty organizers. These ones at San Francisco State are nicknamed the Marthas because it was started by two Marthas.
Killer.
Within
I like that.
San Francisco State, arguing that the OpenAI deal is accelerating a transformation of the university. Fewer faculty jobs, more dependence on external vendors, students being reshaped into more compliant tool-using workers. And so they start pushing petitions and protests saying, instead of renewing this OpenAI contract, so they initiated the contract early 2025, and so it came up for renewal at the time when they're thinking about this would be coming up for renewal roughly now.
You're right.
So instead of renewing the contract, invest in people and the academic programs that you need to carry out your mission.
Gosh, okay.
What a novel idea.
Interesting,
right?
yeah.
So this is happening, right? There's faculty leading these efforts, leading these conversations, the Marthas as they're called. And at the same time, system leaders are talking about the AI initiative as a way to keep CSU competitive and to mobilize the workforce for the emerging AI economy. So from a labor perspective, AI is showing up both as a new workload, right? Faculty are being expected to incorporate these things.
Right.
And a symbol of where the money is going while jobs are being cut. So there's this like really interesting tension there. So when you hear this, does this strike you, the story that we're sort of chewing our way through here, primarily as a story about AI or a story about what institutions tend to do in a budget crisis? How do you see AI being used in a larger pattern of labor and austerity?
Yeah. No, I mean it's a great question, and like shout out to the Marthas, I guess. That's awesome. But like a big part of what we do, even though it's not a big part of what we do every day, right, is using the expertise that we have developed over time through both study, teaching, research to do teaching, right? To teach students, to develop classes, to engage in, the construction of curriculum that supports students in doing what they want to do, and also like doing research in emerging areas that, frankly, led to the development of artificial intelligence, right? Like again, universities are the powerhouse of innovation in the United States and across the world, right? Like that is where where things get developed. That's where science gets done. That's where things get, constructed in ways that can actually move into market, right? Like those are the ways those technologies come about, and like the recognition of that is minimal, I think, in this sort of Silicon Valley CEO kind of perspective of universities, right? And so when you think of it as a business, right, then it becomes, well, it's like any other business organization, right? Like when I was a manager at Kinko's, right, my job was to make sure that the amount of hours that I was spending out to staff was under a certain amount of overall sales, right? Or so that every week we were making money. Right. That was the job. It's like I had to staff at a level to make sure that my projection for sales was going to be met under labor cost.
Right.
And that means that you don't give people full employment, right? Like that's what that means, right? And I understand that in terms of company, right? Because a company is trying to advance itself. It has its own interests that are not mine, right? But in terms of a university, that's not that dynamic of labor and profit are not the same, or shouldn't be the same, frankly, as a corporation, right? So we shouldn't be looking at this from the perspective entirely of like efficiencies, right? What can we gain from these things? How many people can we remove from the system whose expertise is, enormous and should be valued, right? It is valued, but not in all places. How can we remove the sort of autonomy and agency of these folks in ways to, automate parts of their jobs, right? Yeah. And so that, in a business perspective, it makes a lot of sense, right? You don't want to deal with HR issues. You don't want to deal with promotion and tenure cases. You don't want to spend money on, various initiatives, right? That's fine. But the other side of that is you're losing all of this expertise and value in folks that innovated for this science and technology, right? Yeah, right. They were the people who were helping develop these things that allow us to do this. And this goes back to like, okay, well, what do we value at a university, and how does that labor feature in the work of a university, right? That labor is teaching and it's research and service, right? And it's all typically in service of whatever the mission is of that university, right? And for us as a public university, ours is devoted to the state of Michigan and its citizens, and so thinking of that as a business where you're trying to constantly find efficiencies means that you're disinvesting in Michigan citizens. Like that's literally what it means, right? You're saying, what really doesn't matter is the expertise that we can bring here to support the citizens of the state. No, what matters is efficiently getting people through a system of credentials, right? Of producing a degree, which again, going back, what is that degree for now, right? Thinking about the San Francisco folks, right? Like, or the CSU folks, right? You have this massive initiative to incorporate AI or to have licenses for students to be able to use it, but you don't invest in the people who are responsible for carrying out that mission, right? And the development of the curriculum and the courses and the degree programs and the certificates and the et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. All of these things that could be very, very important and useful to students, because we are in an era where these tools are going to not go back in the box.
Right. Yeah, and where we're going to head next is sort of builds off of that a little bit, which is what is the role of public education in the AI age? So, so we're going to unpack that a little bit, because I think you've started touching on this idea of like, what is the mission of the university system? Sure. And how does this emergence of AI interplay with that? Yeah. That said, our glasses are empty.
They are indeed.
So I think we're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back. All right, our glasses are no longer empty.
Oh my God,
which should enable us to continue this conversation.
I think so. I'm angry. Go on.
Perfect. I can't wait to hear the transition music we put in between. Which we have no plan for.
Yeah. I have thoughts,
but
we
did a great job. I'm assuming it was fantastic.
Yeah, it was wonderful. Good job.
Good job, us.
Baby Got Back is an interesting choice, Devin.
Right. Well, now I feel like we have to. Anyhow. Let's continue on.
Fair enough.
Okay. Eventually, they'll probably kick us out of this bar. Jesus. All right. So, Picking up where we left off, so the article continues to sort of anchor its discussion in the history of the California public system. Okay? So California State University, which is this system of 22 campuses, as we talked about before, is part of an old California master plan, which was implemented by the University of California president in 1960, where the model was this sort of three-component structure, where the UC system was for research, CSU was for mass higher education and skilled worker production, and then the community colleges were for broad access and upward mobility.
Sure, okay.
So that was their model, and that was their structure. And so historically, CSU has been the largest producer of K-12 teachers in the state of California and a key engine for both economic development and social mobility.
Hell yeah.
Right? Which ties into some of what you're talking about, which is like, what's the point of a public institution?
Yeah,
What
sounds
do we
like a
do,
great
right?
system. CSU sounds like an awesome system. Good
The
job.
article goes on to talk about how, at the time, this was also free. So like,
Yeah.
right. So,
Okay.
so it was actually funded to like you could go to this CSU system and get this sort of opportunity to like become a skilled worker and enter the economy, and this was a big boost.
This was just available to Californians.
Right. So fast forward to today.
Awesome.
And now within California, there's an AI Workforce Acceleration Board. All right. This is an effort coming out of the governor's office, which is currently led by Gavin Newsom, and encourages an AI-powered economy. So CSU's AI initiative across the university system is sold as simple progress to keep the working class students from being left out of AI jobs, even though no one really knows what those jobs are going to look like a year from now, 2 years from now, 5 years from now.
Sure, yeah.
Right? So you end up with this question, right? Is public education primarily about training AI-ready workers, or about building critical, reflective citizens who can actually reflect upon and question the systems they're entering, right? So what happens when we go to these big AI contracts that actually tilt things towards the first interpretation, especially when students and faculty don't really get a say and are not getting a say in how these tools are being integrated and used. So when you think about our own work, right, teaching computing at Michigan State, how do you balance those sort of two missions, right? What do you see as the risk if public universities lean too hard into an AI workforce pipeline and not enough into the critical human side?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot in there, and, I think, one of the things that's really important for this sort of public side of this is that it is broadly accessible, and I would argue freely available to anyone who wants to do it, right? Like, the barrier to entry to any form of higher education needs to be dropped, right? Whether that's training programs to your colleges or public universities, right? Because being a person in the world who is educated is one who can make really good decisions for themselves, their families, their friends, right? Not because like college or university like does it. It just gives you that experience of being able to figure out what you want to do with your life. It gives you an opportunity to find the thing that you're passionate about, the thing you want to learn more about. And it's not that you can't do that outside of formal education, but it provides you with a credential in the world that allows you entry, right, to advance your life. So it's something that employers will expect of you, for well-paying jobs. Right now there's a question kind of inside of that, which is like, what is the purpose of a public education? I would argue, in a very sort of broad sense, right, the purpose of public education is to create an educated citizenry that can make good decisions for the next generation. Right? Because education is the sort of like public and social act of replicating a society, right? And I mean replication in the sense of every part of that, right? It is the way that you introduce errors into that replication. It's the way that you introduce, changes and deformations into that societal replication, right? And it produces new forms of society, right? And if that education is broadly accessible and broadly available, then those replications can be controlled in ways that allow people advancement, right? And like thoughtful advancement, so that their lives are actually better, right? Now, it depends on who you talk to, right? I mean, I think about that now, having been in higher education for, many years of my life, 25 years or something like that, right? 26 years of my life. that was not how I thought about it going into college, right? I grew up without a history of college in my family, right? I was the first person in my family to go to college, and I was able to go to college because of a scholarship that I received from the University of Texas. That was the only way I was able to pay for tuition, was that they provided it, and I still had to work full time to pay for my dorm, basically, right? And because of that, and because of when I was available to work, which was overnight, I lost that scholarship in the very next semester, right? And so like
Nailed it.
Right, fucking landed that plane. Yeah. But you know, like so my frame of thinking about that is like, yes, this is what higher education is for, but it's also like, yeah, but I wanted a fucking job. Right. Like, yes. Like I was told that this was the way to get a job.
There was an implicit agreement that, like, if you get to the other end of this, you're good.
Yes, and a job where I didn't have a boss that was telling me, like, well, you got to be here at 11 p.m. tonight because you got to work until 8 a.m. Right? And that's just what I have available for you, right? Yeah. And that's the experience, I think, of a lot of students, especially at State, right, where those students have the full life experience of anybody in Michigan. Right?
Yeah, right. And that actually puts us in a good spot to move on. One of the other things that the article points out is that the students are sort of put in the middle of this identity crisis.
Yeah, for sure.
What are we as a higher education institution?
Yeah.
Like, what role do we play? What responsibilities do we have? Like, there's students getting degrees while all this is happening.
Yeah,
right? They're signing contracts. They're headlines are popping out. All this other stuff.
Yeah.
They're initiating these new initiatives, doing all this stuff, and the students are like, "Excuse me, what's happening?"
Yeah.
Right? So students are kind of in this crossfire, and as this article points out, is some students lean into AI as sort of a survival strategy. They learn prompt engineering. They're using AI to find and tailor the job applications. They're joining OpenAI student labs because OpenAI wants people to think this is a good idea, right?
Yeah.
So they're like, "Hey, students, we got jobs.
Hey,
right?
we got a little PR campaign for you.
Piles of cash that we're trying
setting
to convince
on
people
fire.
Yes, right. We're trying to convince people this is worth doing. Like, come here and learn about the amazing technology that you get to use.
Yeah.
They also invite students to serve as ChatGPT campus ambassadors.
Oh gosh.
And then some students also look at using AI to launch startups. Right?
So we got AI influencers on the campus now.
They literally are hiring students to be AI influencers.
That's killer.
Yes. And the article interviews a couple of such students.
Question for you. Is that better or worse than the Red Bull ambassadors?
The Red Bull ambassadors give me free Red Bull.
Okay, fair enough. This is not my life.
Question.
Yeah, okay. I guess the question answers itself. Shit.
Yeah, like I'm walking across campus and now I have caffeine I didn't have before.
I see.
And all of the other wonderful compounds that make me feel alive.
Is it the taurine?
Yes, I believe
it's the taurine.
It's mostly the taurine.
Yeah.
I'm half taurine at this point. I'm not sure.
Yeah. No, I could tell.
Yeah,
I could tell.
Right. So yes, Red Bull ambassadors.
In the competition between AI influencers and Red Bull ambassadors.
Correct.
Red Bull ambassadors. Hands down. Got it. Okay.
And as far as I know, Red Bull ambassadors are not destroying the very planet we live on.
I mean,
to my knowledge.
It depends.
My body maybe, but not the entire planet.
It depends on where the wastewater goes.
Fair point.
Okay.
That's a different podcast.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, perfect, great. And so you have these students that are basically trying to just survive all this nonsense, right? And so for some of them, buying into this AI hype train feels like the only way to avoid becoming part of what they call an AI underclass. Okay? So basically, in order to stay ahead, I can't fall behind. Right?
Okay. This is how students feel.
This is how some students are feeling.
Gosh, yeah. Did they use that language? AI, like I feel like I'm kind of underclassed, or
the article uses the term AI underclass,
okay,
but it wasn't clear if this was a statement made by the student or an interpretation of the.
Just a painful kind of position.
It's not good.
Yeah, right? No, that's great. That's not great.
And yet others, they're pushing back, right? So you have some students who refuse to use AI on ethical or environmental grounds, even if their assignments or instructors are essentially requiring it to be true.
Oh, wow.
Some talk about failing at the standard for what right. Good for you. The kids are not all bad.
Kids are all right.
And some talk about the feelings of the standards for what counts as real work shifted overnight, right? So there's even a thread in here where they're like, well, AI hit the scene and all of our professors were like, don't use it, it's cheating, it's terrible, it's the worst. And then all of a sudden we signed this OpenAI contract. It's like, so here's your AI companion for the journey through, right? So like all of a sudden the students are like getting this whiplash of what the fuck is happening?
That's
I
an
thought
interesting.
we said no.
Yeah.
Now we're saying yes, all in. Like, what does that mean, right? So, and that's not. It was an interesting thing because I've seen it at MSU as well, right? Where when it first happened, faculty sort of like their hackles got.
Yeah, no, they shot the bed.
This ruins everything we've ever intended to do.
Yeah, every one of these students is a dirty little cheater, and I'm gonna figure it out.
And then, literally months ago, we're like, we should write a proposal for this AI-ready Spartan initiative.
Every single one of those monsters.
Right? So like.
Yeah.
So like the students are just watching this, like, what the fuck? What are you up to?
Yeah.
So at any rate, so you feel like these standards are changing. They don't really know what real work counts like. They're just trying to keep up.
Yeah.
All this. Some students organize protests, basically demanding that no course requires the use of AI, and that an AI policy, that all AI policies and funding decisions must include student and faculty voices.
Hell yeah. Nice.
Again, kids are crushing it.
They're doing it.
The next generation is going to be better than us.
Good. That's good.
One direct article that I wanted to pull in that comes, one direct quote from the article is what I consider a callback, perhaps, to the very nature of this podcast.
Oh, yeah.
So the quote from the article is, faculty are feeling anxious. Nick Llanos, a sociology professor at Chico State. Nick, if I pronounced your name incorrectly, I apologize. Told me, students don't know how to behave. What are we doing here?
What an awesome quote.
Right there in the article.
Yeah, what are we doing here?
Yeah, because this is the thing. Like, when you start thinking about the experience of the students, the experience of the faculty, this mixed messaging of like, what are we as a university system?
Yeah.
What question can you ask? But what are we even doing?
Yeah. No, and it's. I mean, that's tough, right? Because when you think about this technology, right? It is not. It is not in the same way as a calculator that has come in, right? It is not in the same way as the internet has come in, right? Those technologies were, I would argue, arrived on the scene, right? But they're not like arrival technologies, and AI is one of these technologies that has arrived in a way that is both disruptive but also like incentivized to be disruptive, right? It's unclear to me. I won't get into the economics of it. It's unclear to me how this money is being made, right? But the approach, right, to sort of grow the use of it is bonkers to me, right? It cannot cost what it costs. It cannot be as available as it is for folks in the way that it is. The amount of water and electricity to run these kinds of inferences, right? To construct these data centers that can facilitate all of the AI that is appearing in all of these commercial applications. Not to mention the way that it's being used in universities, right? Like, that is not a sustainable situation at all, right? And so when it comes down to thinking about like, well, what do folks have to do around this, right? And how do they sort of shift? Well, I mean, they're being pressured to use these technologies because of all of these other sort of forces around it, right? And in some sense, I'm sympathetic, right? I mean, it's something that we experience, right? We are encouraged to do this, right? Rewards come with doing this, right? And that's the structure of it right now, is to say, well, okay, well, like, if I'm going to play the game, if I'm going to keep playing this game that I enjoy, that I think is important, that I think contributes to society in a very positive way, well, I've got to figure this out, right? And now, but the other part of it that's really quite interesting to me, right, is like, I was joking about, faculty thinking of students as little cheaters, right? I've said, like, you don't want to get into an arms race with students. They're fucking smarter than you, right? Like, they're going to figure out a way to do the thing. Yeah,
they're going to win.
They're going to win. They're brilliant, right? And so, like, just don't do that. But I think what this does, right? Because the sort of brief history of AI in higher education is one where faculty were very, very concerned about it circumventing the learning that's happening, right? And this trip into very quickly of like, all right, we got to figure out how to work with this shit, right? I think is somewhat natural, right? But also like I appreciate it because it says to us like, well, they're not cheaters, right? I mean, we've got to figure out how to embrace this in a way that supports them and is not just punitive, right? And that to me, I think that's kind of, I don't know, a nice way to sort of think about advancing and motivating, like why we would incorporate AI into these courses, right? But again, it is not the case that money and support has followed that change, right? That like you said, right? That change you've seen at MSU, it's happened, but not at the amount that it is needed to do this for students broadly.
Right. And something sort of related to all of this, because you sort of talked about like the cost and the impact and like the way in which this is being adopted. And so one of the things that actually is pointed out in the article, and something that you and I were talking about during the break, alongside all of this as it's happening, is if you actually look at the adoption, the usage, a large number of the licenses are unused. So they paid for 500,000.
That's unsurprising.
500,000 licenses, right? And so that also speaks to
how unused.
They didn't in the article say.
Oh, yeah. So nobody wants to report those numbers.
You know, right? Like, so I don't know the exact number. But the point was made that like you bought 500,000 licenses, and I think you and I were talking during the break, like we should figure out like how many students could have, like what could the maximum usage have been?
Sure. Yeah. How many students are in the CSU system?
Yeah. There's an interesting question to answer there. Is like, did you need 500,000? Also, did you ask if they all wanted it? Anywho.
Yeah.
So there's all that. But it does raise this really interesting question of like how much of this is actually student driven? Like, do the students want this? Which I think you were already talking a lot about this. Whether or not they want it, maybe they feel obligated, versus just top-down branding and vendor relationships. Right. Like OpenAI is up in the California, like they're embedded in California, and they're like, let's go talk to these bozos and like convince them to like buy our product because it doesn't matter if they use 500,000 or 300,000. That's a number that increases our
usage is all that matters, right?
Like get them hooked,
burn the fucking tokens,
prove to someone that we can't live without it.
A need, like
they're trying to manifest a demand.
They're manifesting a demand. I mean, it's not unlike the approach that was used to sell razors, right? Right. We're going to give away the first razor, right? And then the heads for those razors are going to be quite expensive, and you're going to have to buy them forever, right? And so
you've adopted a thing that you've built your entire routine around.
That's right. Yeah, disposable razors are ridiculous. Let's just get rid of that. Anyway,
but yeah, so now, you know, and you've touched on this a little bit, like what our responsibility is as it connects to all this. But when you look at your own students, and I'm sure I've seen these, I'm sure you've seen these. You have the eager adopters, you have the skeptics, you have the ones that are just like trying to get to graduation because, as you alluded to, there was a promise made to them of what that meant. What resonates and connects with you? Like, what responsibilities do we as educators have to help them navigate AI without either forcing it on them or leaving them behind?
No, that's an important question, I think, because I mean, it's not. I don't think it's universally held how we should relate to artificial intelligence, right? It's you know, a question of, let's say, individual faculty and staff, right? Both from their disciplinary perspective, like how is it being used, what can it advance, and what does it mean to use it in this space, which I think for a lot of disciplines is unknown, right? And is part of the active like research areas that people are engaged in, right? You know, in physics and astronomy, right? It is used for modeling and simulation and classification and so on, and it's used quite well and quite effectively, right? And so we do have a sense of like, well, in those spaces, what does it mean to be able to do that kind of science? Well, it means being able to do this kind of computing with artificial intelligence, machine learning, and so on, right? In other spaces, which I'm not familiar with, right? Like there's how does AI feature in your understanding of, you know, literature or literary analysis, right? How does it feature in art? What do people think about the ethical and sort of moral connections between humanity, art, and AI? Like, what does that look like, right? And I think that a lot of that is up to individuals to certainly figure out, right? But it's how, again, education is how we replicate society, and so through that understanding that people could develop, right, we could develop ways of replicating society that allow us to embrace it or avoid it or whatever, right, depending on those situations and cases, right? And the idea that you can just sort of make available, you know, ChatGPT for folks, and you'll expect innovation is ludicrous.
It's
right.
nuts.
It's nuts, right? And what you have to do is you have to give people time and space to work with these tools, right? Give them an opportunity to sort of think about how this can work in whatever that space is, right? Whatever discipline you're in, and what their relationship to it is going to be, such that we can design something, that relates AI to that learning or understanding in whatever that program might be. I think going back to what we were talking about, with like the what jobs are available for students and what are we doing this for anyway, right? I'll focus mostly on STEM because that's what I know, but like, if we were to say, well, what are the big problems that we need to solve as a global society, for which artificial intelligence is a set of tools that can help us solve it?
Right.
Okay, great, right? Climate change, for example, the current weather situation we're experiencing, right? But also just energy innovation, right? Thinking about how you deliver healthcare, right? How you analyze data that comes through healthcare systems, environmental analysis, all of these things. If we thought about this in terms of a big picture of like what are the things we want to solve, then I think we start to think about, well, what are the programs that we should be designing for those future solvers of those problems, right?
And I think if you took that approach, right, and you made it transparent to the students, which I think is important.
Yeah.
Because it was sort of alluded to earlier, like, this is all happening, and the students are like, what are they doing? What are they doing?
Yeah, what's
what do they
happening
care
over there?
about? What should I be doing? What's okay? What's not okay? And they're just not part of the conversation.
Yeah.
Right? But if you're going to start identifying, like, well, here's the way we think we can use it within this discipline or that discipline or this discipline to solve this unanswered question, to move us forward in this way, to address this urgent need that we need as not only like a country, but as a society, as a global effort, right? Yeah. And you talk to them about it, then also there's this element, because I think something that I've been grappling with is like, for the students that don't want to use it, because they have ethical concerns, because they have environmental concerns. Yeah. If it was a conversation to say, you're absolutely right, that is a real concern. We need to think about the concern. And we need to decide if we can identify many of the things that you're talking about. It's like, this is the problem we could solve, and here's how it might be accelerated, and here's how, like, maybe we need to accelerate it because we're on a trajectory where, like, Canada, not just Canada's on fire, but like the U.S. is on too. And like,
for sure.
Like, we don't walk around without respirators on because it's too unsafe to be outside. Like, we could say, like, this is becoming an urgent need. Maybe there is a technology that can help us accelerate it. And if the students are part of the conversation, then at least they might understand why. Right. And then they can still make an informed decision. I still think we need to, this is, I think, a real challenge, is like, as we identify the ways in which our curricular goals are shifting, you still might have a population of students that can't use, like, will not use these tools.
Sure.
And so how do you create, like, learning outcomes and assessments that create a pathway that allows them to sidestep it? Because I think they have every right to. But I do think that if we could identify the why we're doing this, then, like anything, you do that cost-benefit analysis and you say, yes, we are trading resources, a finite supply of resources, because in the end, we are pretty confident through careful thought, through research, through investment, through conversation, that this will put us on a better overall trajectory. Then I think those skeptics or those anti-students, at least you can engage in dialogue around, like, how do we reconcile all of the negatives with these potential positives? But if we're not thinking about it that way and it's just like, turn it on, let's go, then why would they want to use it? And in fact, there was I was doing a little bit of digging, and there's various studies. And in fact, CSU, as part of their adoption, has this big report where they're saying, like, they do an analysis of how many students are using it, how many use ChatGPT, which is their tool, versus other tools. In which ways do faculty verify their output, et cetera. And there's like high usage, et cetera. But there's also really high comments that students, like 80% of students, say they won't submit AI-generated answers as their own, right? So they're self-reporting.
Oh, that's
I don't
interesting.
feel like this is my work.
Yeah, this is something I didn't create by myself.
But also 95% of them are using the tool, right? And then also 82% of students worry that AI is perhaps jeopardizing their job security, right? So
82%?
82% are worried, like, my job's fucked.
I'm surprised it's that low.
Right. So, well, maybe some of them just haven't spent it. Well, the other 18% are the ones that are just like, if I get far enough ahead of this, I'm just going to make all the dollars.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. All the dollars.
Nice. But so they're grappling with all this,
Yeah.
and they're trying to decide, like, do I even want to use this? So I think, the important part is make them part of the conversation.
Yeah.
Building off of some of what we're saying. But
Yeah.
the other thing I want to transition to, because we are running probably somewhat long here, another piece, and so this is maybe another thread to pull on a little bit before we sort of wrap up here, is OpenAI doesn't see this as CSU as just a customer, right? It's not just like, you took 500,000 licenses, go nuts, like, thank you so much. This is like a model setting thing for them, right? So
a model setting.
So this is CSU is a model potentially that can be adopted by similar programs in other states and countries. So CSU is the largest contract that has been signed. At least that was in 2025. I didn't dig into too much to see if anyone has signed a larger one.
I mean, it's a big program.
But ASU,
big,
Arizona State University, they're on board. They have a contract with ChatGPT EDU.
They have like 100,000 students.
Yeah, University of South Carolina has one. University of Colorado has one.
Nice.
None quite at the same scale as this, at least at the time of this article.
Yeah.
And so these public systems are now basically like labs, right? They're testing grounds for AI tools. Companies
not just testing grounds, though. They are sources of data and
because
also
they're using them to show
token usage.
To indicate revenue.
Yep.
And to drive adoption.
And to drive,
everything that they're doing
to astroturf a need.
Worthwhile.
Yeah.
Right. So and they're using our public university systems.
They're using your tax dollars, ladies and gentlemen. Your tax dollars are going to this.
And so in theory, if you looked at this as an experiment, right? If this is this idea of like, well, let public universities be a lab space for the value of AI in modern education.
Yeah.
Some of the faculty quoted in the article point out that this doesn't actually look like a carefully designed research program. There's no clear questions about learning.
Nope.
There's no obvious success metrics.
Yeah.
There's no evidence of systematic evaluation, right? So they signed a $17 million contract, and they are collecting essentially no data.
Outstanding.
So
no, hold on.
Well,
they're collecting
OpenAI
data.
is collecting
There we
data,
go.
right?
Yeah.
But the system adoption doesn't have any assessment attached to it to say what were the outcomes, what were the measurable benefits, right? And so really sort of the sense that comes from the faculty is we bought the big tool.
Yeah.
Everyone has to experiment with it.
Yeah.
But like real jobs and degrees are on the line.
Yeah, no, I mean this is not an experiment that I would want to be a part of.
Right.
And I feel terrible.
Right. You and I have
that.
probably over the course of our career seen firsthand pilot initiatives that sort of start as these experiments.
Oh, for sure.
And through time end up becoming
an extreme force of will.
Right. Like they end up just being integrated. So like there's a real danger to say like, oh, well, let's just find out.
Yeah.
Right. But the reality is like some amount of time down the road, it becomes part of the very fabric of how we
just how we do things.
And so if a public system is going to adopt this, so say Michigan State, which they've not yet signed any massive contract of this nature, wanted to do a genuinely research-grounded AI initiative along these lines. What might that look like? What would you, and we're running long, so try to be terse here, but what would you want in place before the campus, MSU's campus, claimed to be AI-powered?
Gosh, man, that's tough.
No, this is an easy one.
No, I get that. I mean, it is still unclear to me how we would measure performance or learning or understanding in these spaces, right? We do our best in classes to provide those evaluations in different ways. We give students grades, obviously, right, at the end of coursework, but like really understanding like how a student, a group of students, or even a whole class of students is able to understand and do something new and innovative, right, with a new technology. That is both a very difficult research task and a very expensive research task at the scale we're talking about. Because if you're talking about 40,000 undergraduate students and you're trying to say like, hey, we implemented AI into these situations, and this also takes for granted that people can actually do this work, right? That they can implement it and integrate it in ways where they can say, here are the learning goals I had for this situation. Here's how I'm evaluating it, right? That's a big ask of most academic faculty at our university,
Right.
Broadly, right? And so, I it's not measuring tokens. It's not measuring, the complexity of prompts, right? It has to be related to something about what students are gaining over and above not using it. Right. And that is situated like within the class, within the discipline, and it is likely, social, right? In that it involves some sort of communication or some sort of performance that is outside of the student's head, right? Because that's the kind of like, sort of, advanced sort of experience that we want to evaluate this tool being able to do is, can this advance not just like a multiple choice question or whatever, right? Like that's ridiculous, right? But can it help the students produce something that they couldn't have done before? And are we able to point to, or students able to point to, that technology is enabling that? Right. I don't know. That is tough. That's a tough ask.
It's such a big problem, right? Like the scale at which they are driving this adoption, or hoping to drive this adoption, like to do it right is, like, as you've alluded to multiple times, is a massive amount of resources.
Right. It's not reduced DFW rates. No. It's not like students completing the degree more quickly or anything like that. Like, those are things that you can track, right? But a causal attribution of this technology to whatever those metrics might be is it's ridiculous to try to do.
No, it's crazy. But I think if we don't find some ways to put some of these things in place, like, we won't have the ability to sound the alarm that this has gone off the rails until it's too late. Yeah, no, you're right. I mean, you having sort of some way of continuously collecting with some fidelity, what student understanding looks like in a program or in a course, right? Like, that's critical, because you want to be able to monitor this, because you want to make sure that what you're offering to students is of value, right? And if it's not of value, then there's a question of, okay, how can it be developed or altered to provide value now? All right, so we're going to try to wrap things up here. It's getting a little more
noisy and spicy. We got some laughs happening.
People are having a good
Somebody
time.
told an off-color joke.
It's 5 p.m. on a Friday here in Lansing, folks. Things are getting
spicy. I love it.
Live after 5. That's what they say about Lansing.
Is that what they say?
Yeah, it's painted on a building downtown.
Fascinating.
Yeah. If you say it out loud, it must be true.
I understand.
All right, so we're going to try to wrap up here. All right, so by the end of the piece, we learned that CSU. So we just had that whole conversation about the chaos and the nonsense and the questioning and the
difficulty of measuring whether the effect is.
Why are we firing people while we're paying OpenAI to infuse our world with AI? By the end of the piece, we find out that California State University has renewed its partnership with OpenAI for another $13 million to be spread over 3 years, while also stating that they will expand access to other AI platforms, because it's unfair to force you to use one of these tools.
You should use all of them. Yep. Wait, sorry. $13 million for 3 years.
Yes.
Same number of licenses?
That part wasn't clear.
Okay.
They basically said, we gave you $17 million and you gave us 500,000 licenses. I did dig into it.
Yeah.
Across all of the CSU campuses, there's about 460,000 undergraduates.
Okay.
Or students, at least.
Okay. So they bought roughly the number of licenses to cover their campuses,
plus a bit to create their AI librarians and their AI presidents. But they're not using it. Right? So
but the students are not using them.
Students aren't using it. Faculties are not using it. Right? Sure. They made sure that everyone who wanted to could. And then they were like, why are you not using it? But anyway, they said, that aside, let's give OpenAI another $13 million to continue this experiment. And so in addition, they announced that graduates would get to keep their accounts for a year after graduating. So there's sort of an alumni clause in there. That's to ensure that they have the ability to navigate the workforce transition. Because, clearly if you become dependent on these tools,
you got to keep using them. You got to keep using them.
Withdrawals. And at the same time, we see
people have bought drugs before, right? I just want to check in for a moment. Okay, moving on.
They make you feel good, Danny.
No, I mean, I understand.
All right.
My point is, anyway, this is
We're gonna
fascinating.
sidestep that, yes.
Yeah.
All right. At the same time, we see humanities departments closing. We see faculty who are actually fired, then rehired into AI ethics and philosophy roles because all of a sudden we went,
Outstanding. We fired the wrong people.
And so at the end, the article tries to make this metaphor of rebuilding from the rubble. So they reference this old Tower Hall that's on San Francisco State Campus or San Jose State Campus.
Sure, yeah.
That was rebuilt after earthquakes, fires, etc. So
Okay,
they
yeah.
sort of try to make the analogy that like there's always been things that disrupt the university system and we'll rebuild and we'll become stronger, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
So maybe AI is just an earthquake event.
Okay.
Fine.
Sure.
But the question is, and the question that the article sort of puts out there and doesn't really answer is, how far do we allow the decimation to go before we begin the rebuilding?
Yeah.
What kind of institution actually emerges at the end of this? Is it a leaner, more efficient, AI-powered workforce machine? Or a public university is actually using AI to support its broader mission, however that's defined, right? Which we've talked about. Sometimes maybe we lose sight of what the mission is.
Yeah.
But if a listener came to you and said, all right, what should I take from this story about AI in public universities? What would you tell them? Is it a cautionary tale about chasing some AI dream?
Yeah.
Or do you see more hopeful stories and how people on the ground are responding to this new AI dream?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean that's interesting. I would push this person to try to talk to, their sort of public representation, whether that's a House member or their senator, right, about how much of the public money is going to this and what is their plan for like making that valuable, right? Because if my money as a taxpayer is going to, supplementing licenses to some company, right, that is disrupting, both education, K-12, higher education, and the workforce for the folks that are, right, like I would want to know that they have a plan for that after the fact, right, or that they have thought about, well, how can we structure this in a way that benefits me as a everyday citizen who may or may not have gone to college, right? Yeah. And because if it's my money, then I want to know how it's being used, right? And so what I think that really needs to happen in this space is to say, what is the relationship of federal and state, entities in these public spaces to these companies, these AI companies, right? Yeah. Like, what is the benefit to us? They're building these massive data centers using an enormous amount of electricity and water in these spaces. Well, how much of that compute is available to the public? Yeah. And for what purpose, right? Right. You're asking for subsidies, you're asking for all of these investments from public funds. Well, what's the actual benefit to the folks that are putting in money to subsidize you? Right? And moreover, if we're thinking about this in terms of the outcomes of for students, right? Like, what world are they going to encounter, and what are they being prepared for? What is our broader long-term plan for people who choose to become educated in different spaces, right? Because obviously, you're not going to see folks that are plumbers or HVAC technicians or construction workers or whatever, right? Like if you are working in a trade, it is difficult for artificial intelligence at the moment to do that work. Right. There may be robots that can do that in very restricted situations, but not in most cases, right? So, what happens to folks who to choose those positions, right? And how does that work continue to be valued so that they can earn good wages? Then you have folks that are in more clerical kinds of positions or positions that are more, it requires some education and so forth, right? Medical transcriptionists, secretaries, et cetera, right? And do they get fully displaced by artificial intelligence? Like that seems awful, right? So what space are you creating for those folks, right? And then you have, your engineers, your scientists, your teachers, right? All of these different areas, right, require us to have a conversation about what is AI for in those spaces. What are the careers that we're kind of preparing people for, and how does this all interact together? Yeah. Right. So that when you're disrupting, all of these spaces, because even folks that don't choose higher education, they're going through K-12 system where AI is being again incorporated, right? And so the question is, well, for all of these folks, what is the plan, right? Like how can we make sure that they have a viable opportunity to, have a occupation that they enjoy, that they can get value in, and that they're not hopping from place to place or constantly trying to figure out what the fuck they're doing because like AI has disrupted that briefly, right? Because all of the other work that we see is that, these companies fire folks and they're like, oh shit, we got to hire all the graybeards back.
Yeah, right. We're seeing headline after headline, especially in the last, I feel like, month or so of like companies,
100%, yeah.
companies being like, oh shit, we need those people back. We need those experts back. And then simultaneously being like,
up.
oh, even if we don't need them, they keep increasing the cost of this shit.
Yeah.
And wait a second, like at what point were the people cheaper?
And it's
right?
and it's who is going to train the next group, right?
Yeah.
If you're kicking these people out with all this expertise and you're replacing it with AI, like very narrowly, who trains your junior developers?
Yeah.
Right? Who trains your junior analysts? Yeah. Right? Who does that work, right? Yeah. Those people are important. Anyway,
and it needs to be, to your point, like it needs to be a conversation happening across all sectors, right? Like K-12 right now is struggling to figure out like
what is our relationship to this,
right? While also being like pressured by the tech companies, like, well, if you just let us in, like we'll solve all these things, right? And if we're not understanding what the K-12 experience is as people in higher education, if we're not talking to industry to say what are your needs, how is this really going to work? If we're not talking across the entire thing, then any one piece of that pipeline could fuck it all up.
Well, and moreover, if we are not talking about it in good faith, right? Because the problem really is that the corporate actors are not acting in good faith. Right? Like they have an interest in advancing these technologies. They have an interest in becoming the one that is the winner of whatever, right? And so pushing that in is important, right? And then you have public representatives who are also not acting in the best of faith when it comes to those situations.
You have all of these administrators, and so I think there's a question too, is like who should have a say on this? But you have the tech company pushing it, and then you have the administrators adopting it at this on-high decision-making level, because if OpenAI, if any of these other tools are right? If they do get to claim that they won and they were correct all along and it was worthwhile
we got
investment,
the best fucking model.
And then you have President so-and-so at such and such institution says, I sided with him, I was also right. And they're looking out again for like what is the legacy they leave behind, and if they tie their if they anchor their ship to the one that they think is the winning ticket, then that's beneficial for them. But also at the end of the day, they're in a position where if it all falls apart, they'll just move on to something else, or they'll say, we tried. How were we to know that it could have gone so bad?
Unbelievable.
So they have so little skin in the game. The people that are driving the decisions, and there's an interesting. I did a little bit of digging. Before we sort of close up here, there's an interesting situation happening place where what is it? Let me look it up. It's the California Public Employment Relations Board. And so this is actually, I think, coming out of sort of the unionized effort of the faculty. Is they basically filed a complaint against CSU saying that it has an obligation to bargain with faculty over AI adoption, basically making the case that you can't just do this from the top. If you're going to make us use it, if you're going to make our students interactive with it, we need to be a part of the conversation. And it's currently, when I dug into this, basically negotiations broke down in March without a finalized agreement. And so there's going to be a formal hearing at some point with an administrative law judge. And how this play out basically will dictate, do the people impacted by this rapid adoption have a voice?
That's wild.
And if it comes down that they do, I think that some of the stuff we've just talked about will be possible. But if they're told, nah,
no, right,
what do we do?
Gosh, that's crazy. I mean, thinking about the union that I'm a part of, right, that is in the middle of bargaining its first contract. Shout out UTSF, good job, y'all. Like that is very interesting because we will probably be one of the first higher education unions in the country to bargain a first contract where AI is a significant presence of the conversation. Yeah, I hadn't even thought about that shit.
And it probably has to be.
No, it does, right? Because if you're thinking about like what is my work, right? What does my work produce, and then how do you deal with derivatives of my work, right? And what is the relationship between what I produce for this university and how it integrates into, incorporates, or how the university advances it with artificial intelligence? Like that shit, I hadn't even really thought about that. Like that is an incredible part of any kind of unionized bargaining conversation for higher education at this point. And frankly, for fucking K-12 teachers too, right? Because I mean, my sisters are K-12 teachers. Like they create a bunch of shit for their classes, right? Damn, like yeah. Shit. Sorry, I had not entered my mind how important that might be to anyone that's bargaining a contract now. Just yeah.
Anyway,
Anyway,
if you're listening,
yeah, the 10 of you.
Yeah, that's right.
And the German person.
whoever you are in
Yeah,
Germany.
thank you. Shout out Germany.
Share the insights with Germany.
Yeah, I mean, they have good labor relations there, as I understand it. Anyway.
Anywho, so that's it for this episode. All right. Thanks for listening.
All done.
Yeah, this was probably too long anyways. You probably didn't even make it to this part, but that's fine. We don't really know what we're doing.
I hope you did.
But that's it. Thanks for listening to What Are We Even Doing? If you happen to be an academic and your campus is wrestling with AI initiatives, budget challenges, and the big question of what is public education even for, we'd love to hear from you. If your world exists outside of academia, but you've got questions about AI, whether we should, whether we shouldn't, or anything in between, go ahead and hit us up. That's it for today.
See y'all.
Adios.